All right, so we've got a review of a show called Just Because. This is a show that came out a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah.
I don't recall who passed it. I think it may have been Kimiko.
You know it's Kimiko.
It's probably Kimiko. It definitely wasn't me. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't you, Mitz.
No, I would not. Yeah, I would. This is not my type.
So I'll tell you right off the bat, I have not watched Just Because. I watched like the first 3 episodes, and then I was like, nah, son.
Well,
But you all did, so shout outs to you.
It's an anime done by Studio Pine Jam, which is like, what the hell have they done? So they did the anime Gamers. And
another
that's
winner.
Pretty much it. So
Enzo, I want you to start off because you are.
No. I want you guys to start off because I know that
huge-
I'm the one that kind of likes it.
You're
I
a
wanted
huge
you
fan
to
of
go
Just Because.
first.
before you guys
So
launch
then-
into it, I just want to say that this anime and Gamers are very similar. And they are very similar. And this anime is, oddly enough, done by the same studio. So
I don't think they're similar at all, but we can talk. We can touch on
Okay.
that soon.
okay, well, let's go.
All right, so you guys want me to go first so you can tear me down? Is that
Yes,
what you want?
yes, please. Build yourself up so we can tear you down.
Stuff up for me.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing clear up because
Listen, we're all friends here. There's not going to be any tearing
Here we go.
down.
Okay, so Just Because is a slice of life anime about a cast of characters that are now going to be ending their high school lives, graduate, and move on to the next chapter of their lives, right? And that alone to me was interesting because most of the time when you look at slice of lives that take place in high school, it's usually not centered around people ending a chapter of their lives. It's usually centered around a new beginning, the whole phrase with like high school debut and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what grabbed me to start watching it back when it was airing, and what kept me was that I thought episode 1 was very, very masterful in the way that it's slow paced, but the slow pacing is not. It gets confused with the word boring very easily, but I think it's more deliberate. And the first episode did a good job of introducing a guy that was transferring back to his old town to end his high school career, and then also show you how this high school moves. And when I say that, I know world building is a term used for fantasy, but in this anime, it's cool. It feels like the high school is alive because as you're watching these two characters talk in the hallway, you also hear an announcement, and if you don't pay attention to the announcement, you don't realize that announcement has to do with a different main character of the cast, and they're calling the girl to the office. So like the high school's alive in different ways. Episode 1 is not afraid of having a lot of wide shots, so like the animators weren't afraid of showing their background art. Their character art is lacking. I'm sure you guys will touch on that soon. But their background art is very, very good. And in episode 1 inspired me a lot because of that baseball scene that they have in the beginning. And yeah, so that's what kept me watching. And then the story moves, granted, one of the flaws that people pick out is that it moves very slowly. But like I said, to me, the slow is good because it feels deliberate, and I get to breathe with these characters. That's the kind of shows I like, though. So I mean, I think that's a preferential thing. So the show moves slowly, deliberately for me. I like that each of these characters are closing this chapter in their own different way to then start anew in their own different way as well. Enzo, we can talk about certain plot points now if you guys want.
Enzo, I've got some bad news for you, and it's really gonna hurt, and it's gonna really bring down your opinion of the show.
Oh boy!
But
I haven't gotten to my opinion.
But Josh Caleb in the chat says he likes your reviews, and that right off the bat tells me that I can't trust you. I'm just kidding.
Wait, what did Josh say?
Shots fired. No, he just said he likes your reviews.
I mean,
cool. Well, I'm glad he does, man.
I agree with some of your points. I think that they definitely weren't they weren't shy about showing their background art, and I think that for good reason. Some of the backgrounds are really well done. Mm-hmm. This is not an anime that needs to have blistering animation. It's 100% of it is just characters walking around and talking. So it's not like we're having high-paced action scenes and things like that. It's not necessary, but the background art is necessary. However, I would note that just on the topic of animation, that as a person who has taught in schools in Japan, this school that they're in basically has about 12 people attending it, because they'll be like in a classroom or in a hallway, and unless it's like one of the maybe 10 characters that are in this anime, there's no one else in this school. So they're obviously cutting corners on basically erasing anybody who's not in the cast from the school. There are no background like students walking around at all, which doesn't make the school feel very lively to me. But I don't know. There's probably reasons why they did that.
I'll give you that for sure. Because, I honestly, I'll admit that I didn't even notice that. But now when I think back to all the high school scenes, it's mostly just like the main characters you are supposed to care about are in the scene, and then there's no one really else walking around. Sparingly so sometimes, yeah. But yeah, for the most part, you're totally right. But yeah, so do you guys want to get into just stopping here before we get into like plot points as some things you don't like from the beginning? Because I know Kazuo, you said you dropped it at episode 3, right?
I did, yeah. I think Mitsuki watched the whole thing, right?
I watched all of it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
so
I watched
I'll share my thoughts since I have the briefest, I guess, opinions of it because I only watched the first 3 episodes. I didn't hate the show. Personally, it was definitely not for me. But I understand why people would like it. It is very slow paced, but life is slow paced, and I feel like this show is it's a pretty accurate slice of life in as much as this is how a lot of high school kids would act and react and what would occur with them. At least this is again this is just the first 3 episodes that I've seen, but that being said, this is also a medium of escapism, and I feel like a lot of people, myself included, want something more than just the average, slow-paced, day-to-day where nothing really ever happens that this show provides. So
Okay.
I think that's mainly my biggest fault with it.
I'm
It's a
gonna,
little subjective though.
It is, certainly.
I'm gonna back up Enzo right there and say that I don't think that this anime in general, and people that make anime don't have to cater to. They don't have to. Also, Addicts is a stronger word. They don't have to pander to that particular audience by feeding them very specific things. Like if this anime wants to have a story that does a very specific thing, and maybe that story isn't about escapism, or maybe it even highlights something that a student might be trying to escape from, which is the reality of transitioning out of their their primary school, then I don't really care. Like, why should I care?
I will say I did find some of the characters to be charming and likable. So like I enjoyed the relationship between the main character and his buddy, in those first couple episodes when they're like playing baseball together and stuff. And like I enjoyed the trip to the aquarium, and I thought that was cute, and how they would play with the little kids and stuff. So like I enjoyed the characters. Like the characters are people that I wouldn't mind being around in real life, but I wanted more entertainment from it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not anything against slice of life shows, because there are plenty of slice of life shows that give you more, that give you more resolution, that give you more entertainment, laughs, emotion. But I feel like this show just didn't give you much.
So, if you know anything about me, I'm not opposed to slower paced shows. Like, Mushishi is like my 3rd favorite anime of all time. But this show, though, I felt like it suffered a lot from the romance plot. And I feel like if it focused more on the coming of age story and lowered down the romance plot, it would have been a lot better. Because oh, okay. And I felt like the show overall felt very rushed, or like they were trying to make it very cheaply, because like mentioned earlier, the backgrounds were fantastic. The animation towards the middle of the show plummeted. It was very noticeable, to the point that it looked like the characters didn't even blend in with the background very well. And I felt like the characters were very lifeless to me. Most of them felt very one-dimensional, such as the only thing that they had going for them was their crush. And I mean, like, all of them had like an interest, but it didn't explore that at all. We didn't learn anything about their lives much at all. And I mean, I also noticed, like, while I was taking down my notes, I wrote down all the characters that I liked and all the characters that I felt were very bland. And then what I noticed after I was doing some research is that the characters that I liked had very well established voice actors, and all the ones that I didn't like were brand new to voice acting. It sounded like they were reading off a script. They put very little emotion or life into their characters. But like the one character that I liked the most was what was her name? The photography girl?
Komiya.
And it felt like she had a lot of life to her, and she had a passion in photography, and they explored that. And like she was doing photography to save her club. She also liked ATA, but it didn't. I don't know. Like, maybe we can talk more about characters later.
Yeah.
But
So I can speak to some of the points you made. So and this is why I start my review by saying that the backdrop of this show is not a new beginning, but the closing of a chapter. And I think that context gives an air of melancholy to a lot of the show. So Komiya, I'm glad you brought up her spunk. She's in her second year. She still has a lot of like
She has life left in her.
Life in high school to look forward to, and her worries aren't at the forefront of her everyday life yet. So she has less on her shoulders, which I think gives her the most spunk because she's more carefree still. Natsume, Izumi, Morikawa, and Soma are about to enter a new life, and Morikawa, for example, she had a passion for the band club for music, right? But then with the college she was going to wasn't going to have it anymore. She struggled with letting go of that passion. In the end, you do realize that she will, even though the college she's going to doesn't have the program for music, a serious one. They have a band appreciation club, so she signs up for that. Soma deals a lot with like feeling like he isn't as good as the other characters because he's not taking any entrance exams. He's like bummed about that. He's not going to college. He's gonna settle to his everyday family life that was already like made for him. And Izumi and Natsume struggles with trying to be as like it's not very prevalent in the show, but she struggles with like being as good as her sister. And also she's probably the character that irked me the most in the show, because she flip-flops like midway in a very shallow way. I don't think it was very well backed up. But yeah, so that's her. And then Izumi, the main character, like the main boy that is introduced to you and then you follow throughout the most of the show. I don't like him too much either because to me he is the one that shows the least interesting dynamic because he's quite bland. Like I agree with you on him. Is he a new voice actor? Manny, do you know?
yes, he's brand new. He was we're talking about Eita, right?
Yeah, Eita. Mm-hmm.
Eita. Yeah, his voice actor, this is the only thing he's ever done.
Yeah, okay. So I'll take your word for it that it sounded not that great because I mean I don't really inflection on voice acting and everything I don't really catch too well, but he does come off pretty bland, and I don't like the way he's like drawn. He looks like such a schlub. You know what I mean? He looks like such a schlub, and it made me not want to cheer for him at all. But
they didn't really explain why all these characters like each other. I mean, they all had crushes, but they didn't really explore that at all. Like, why do these two girls like Eita so much?
Because they hot.
You know,
is he though?
I don't know. They're high school kids. That's all they care about is who's hot and whatever.
You know what I wish they would have explored more?
What's up?
I really don't think, like, I get that this anime is about what students go through in Japan when they're getting ready to transition out of school.
Yeah, that's why I said it'd be better as like a coming of, age story.
But what I wish they had done is that I wish that this whole anime had shifted its timeline about 4 months ahead from the beginning, because I personally don't feel like they need 12 episodes of the quote-unquote struggle that they're going through as they leave school. I would rather have had about 4 episodes of that and then had shown them how they actually deal with and acclimate to their new lives, because we see literally none of that.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm on fully on your team.
And
sure.
I felt that this anime, and this is me being very blunt, watching them basically exist solely around the relationships, like, oh, I love this person and I love this person, but it takes me 12 episodes to confess which is why this anime feels like gamers, because the whole anime exists around nothing but people liking other people.
And communication failure, which is really what irked me this whole anime.
There's a really annoying spot in the anime towards the end where one girl sees another girl's picture on his cell phone background, and there's no like conversation about it. She just like freaks out and runs away. Not how a real person would probably behave.
Well,
but
a high school kid probably.
Dude, they're 18. So like my point is that I don't think they needed 12 episodes of that. And frankly, I thought that for the most part this anime was really, really boring. I mean, I struggled. I watched this anime in the crevices of time that I had yesterday in between curling lessons and this morning, and I watched the last 5 episodes of this on double speed. And I do not do that ever. It never happens. I never do that. I think I've done it twice since I started this podcast, and I needed it to get to the end of this anime because I was not finishing it. It was almost nothing happens in this whole show. The best episode in this show was the snow day episode, where Eita finally a character in this show does one goddamn thing that reflects a person actually giving a shit about another person, which is making sure that the girl that he cared for got to her entrance exam on time. And then
that was good.
And then he quizzes her on the train. 2 people had a real moment where they act like real people. And I know this is anime, they're not real people, but it's an anime that's trying to mimic real people. And in doing so, you must make them feel real. And this anime makes all these like 18, maybe even 19-year-old kids seem like tiny children. Like they have no control over themselves. They just act like they're entering middle school and not like they're getting ready to go to college. And that's pretty much how I feel about it.
Yeah, no,
I'd say that I started
agree with you.
Enjoying it a lot more towards the end, because I think it was around the Valentine's Day episode people actually started showing some emotions, and so I started liking it from there. But it was just so sad that didn't happen until like episode 10 that I started getting attached to the characters, because for me, slice of life like lives or dies by how well you attach to the characters and how intimate they are with you as a viewer, and they did not grab me. Like, I couldn't care about any of their struggles because, I mean, most of them were so lifeless to me except for Komiya. She was the only one that I really liked.
Yeah, I think I can safely say that if Komiya wasn't a character in this show would be a lot less fun, like a lot less any type of good for me. Because like, yeah, I do like the show on the most part, but I can't even argue a lot of the flaws you guys are mentioning, because I mean, an interesting thing is that this anime is it's like on like the first wave of anime that are using texting like very seriously to like convey actual dialogue and plot points. So I thought that was cool at first, but then later on it kind of shits itself in the bed, because the reason that I in the end will not really back this anime for real.
Do we need a spoiler drop?
Because,
do we need a spoiler drop for this?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Spoilers are coming.
There's your spoiler drop.
All right,
you've been warned.
I like that drop. And so the reason that I can't really ever like super recommend this anime to like someone that's looking for like a really good full package anime is, one, the communication issues, which I think are the inherent problem as to why the ending of this anime is so fucking stupid. So
strong
the
language.
Whole time,
Damn.
Eita, the main
Explicit.
character, is like trying to do this whole thing where like, if I pass this test, I'm gonna go tell Natsume that I like her, and then Natsume is like, I'm gonna go to the like same school as blah blah blah, or whatever, and then like he ends up not passing the test, right, which is fine. And then what I did like about the last episode is that he goes to the baseball field with Haruto, Soma, whatever, and they do a parallel of the first episode where instead of Haruto doing the 3, trying to hit a home run to confess, Eita's not trying to hit a home run to confess, which is a cool parallel. He hits the home run. They cut to him running around town trying to find Natsume, and then they cut to the future.
That was extremely awkward. Yeah.
I was like, what in the
Definitely.
fuck? For a show that is literally fucking conveying dialogue
And then they
that is
even
important to
mention-
plot point over text messages, they're not going to use a fucking text message in this moment to be like, yo, Natsume, meet me in the damn corner over here so I can tell you that I fucking love you. Like,
Yeah, right? And then
what
there's that
the
point
fuck?
where he looks at his phone. He's like, oh, she hasn't looked at it in over a month. I'm like, really?
And he has
Yeah,
a message
exactly.
every
That's
month.
it.
Like,
And it's like none of your fucking friends. None of your friends were like,
Yeah,
hey,
definitely.
by the way, have you talked to Eita recently? Natsume, have you? Or like, hey, Eita, have you like heard of Natsume recently? Like, she's going to the same school as you. Like, there's no way they didn't fucking know.
It's a bullshit
and
ending.
that's what this last episode ruins for me so much. Like, I was ready to give this show a good like recommendation from me to anyone else that likes slow, deliberate slice of life, but that ending is just too trash, way too trash. And they hurt my poor baby Komiya's heart, and she heard the scene of her
Oh,
crying.
that was really sad.
The scene of her
'cause
crying
I
was
really
actually
loved her.
really, really emotional, and I hated seeing that.
yeah, I mean, so you love this girl so much, you're willing to do all this stuff for her, and you text her and she doesn't answer you, and you wait a month before you text her again, and then when he finally
Yeah.
texts her again, she just happens to be right behind him in that moment. It's so fucking ridiculous. And also, I thought that the Soma Morikawa like moment was bullshit too. It's the worst confession. It's a terrible confession. She's like, oh,
Terrible.
She's like, oh, we can't be together because it's going to be long distance or whatever. Which, by the way, Japan is like the size of my finger. Like you can get from Tokyo to Osaka in like an hour and a half on the bullet train.
Yeah.
And it's like these two. She goes, I can't be with you because it's going to be a long distance relationship, and I don't have any faith in myself. Like, and I take that as I don't have faith in
damn.
I don't have faith in my ability to do a long distance relationship. And then
remain
she's
loyal.
like, and then like she does like he sits down, he's all defeated. She does like a little spin, and she's like, oh, you know what? How about we just wait till we're settled into our new lives? And I'm like, why didn't you just say that to begin with? Like,
Yeah.
like
I
what
don't
are you
understand
what
why
are you
she-
doing?
Like, yeah, she definitely led him on. Like at the beginning, she's like, "Oh, I'll think about it," but she knew she was gonna move away for college, right?
That relationship's doomed because she's
It's so
strange.
doomed.
she's going into
I
that
don't-
with doubts. Like she looked at him sitting down all defeated and is like, and just felt bad for him and basically just pity agreed to it. And like in the end, they're just gonna break up anyway because she doesn't have any faith in the relationship. So
I think the way Become in the YouTube chat is phrasing it is correct. It's like, hey, put your love on hold for me for 3 years, yeah? Like let's wait until I'm ready, only me, and I'll put you on hold, and you agreed. Oh, great, just wait for me. Cool. Like that is like, I hate it. I didn't like that confession. I thought it was so out of character for Morikawa from the way they set her up. Like it kind of came off selfish to me. I don't know, so that overall that's why like this anime that I thought had potential at first kind of falls on its face, is because like gamers, it kind of messes up communication. It's a text message, man. A text message. Like,
Can I
that's it.
ask you something?
Yeah.
Like I know this is a slower paced anime, but do you think, like, not that it's not because it's slow paced, but do you think it suffered because they're trying to make it too realistic?
Interesting question. I don't think so, because something I want to touch on before is that what Kazu was saying were about escapism. So like my life is very busy all the fucking time. So sometimes escapism for me is a show like this where things are calm and life is just happening, with no like crazy deadlines to meet that I have to deal with a lot. So I personally don't think that this show suffers from trying to copy life. Because in the end, as I said before, and it's the phrase I always have is life imitates art and art imitates life. So to me that was fine. I think this anime truly suffers from just communication issues and wasted potential in their budgeted episode length.
I think it suffered. I think it suffered because they were trying to imitate life.
I think
You think they were imitating it too
suffered because
closely?
they didn't do it well.
Yeah,
but not because they tried to do it.
I mean, it felt to me like a bunch of people sitting in a room who have never dated, and they're like, oh, I don't know how real people would react, so let's just make them all act like a bunch of idiots. Like Soma is gonna bicycle frantically across town like a maniac.
When you could just call somebody.
Just to see a girl who's waiting for him, and then when he gets there, there's a dog, like a tiny dog present, and he just has a friggin' meltdown about it, and then he has to like cry to his buddy about it. And these aren't how real people behave. And
There are people that are afraid of dogs, man.
dude, no 18-year-old boy is going to.
No, there are
Dude.
people that are afraid of dogs.
You're gonna man up, and you're gonna man up in the moment, and maybe you're afraid of dogs, but the last thing you're gonna do is sit there and unravel in front of the girl you like, and then cry to your best buddy about it. Almost nothing in this anime was realistic. You got the whole anime is about, this is just another one of those anime where they expect you to watch 4 hours of it and then you get no payoff. Another one of these romance anime where the people that made it feel like they've never been in a relationship, and we're supposed to watch them. Like, how many times do I have to watch Soma walk right up to the girl he likes and then go, can we, and he can't get it out. And just unbelievably frustrating. And you know what? I was going to give it a 2.5, but I'm so angry in this moment that I'm going to give it 2 anime studio staffers who have never been in a relationship out of 5 because I'm just pissed off right now. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I did not enjoy anything about this anime. I liked Gamers more. The end. Because at least Gamers was like drama filled. You know, it was like, ooh, juicy soap opera. This anime felt like a bunch of lifeless
Juicy soap opera. That's.
I mean, at least it had like love quadrilaterals and crazy things happening.
Yeah,
this anime was just literally it did not have one exciting moment in the entirety of its run. 4 hours, not one exciting moment.
I think you're totally right. I think this is just like, I just really, 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 really like anime that have this tone and pacing. So that's why, to me, like, it deserves all the frustration that people felt in terms of communication and pacing, because if you're going to try and be a slice of life that is using phones like as a means of communication to deliver dialogue, and then you don't do that in the moment where you want to talk to somebody, like it's like fucking 2018, you know? So like, it deserves all the frustration. I'm not surprised you're giving it a 2 or that you're angry, because like if I had to binge this in one day, it would be such a drag. I watched it once a week when it was coming out, so maybe I didn't feel that drag as much as you guys did. But,
I have to hold this anime to the standards of anime that came before it. And I look at an anime like Kare Kano, His and Her Circumstances, where you have 2 characters that are about as broken as characters can be. They both have huge baggage, massive flaws that they outline to you in the first episode. And by episode 2, they're on the ground crying in a moment of passion because they've been triggering each other's like anxieties and stuff. And they actually form a real relationship as 2 people by episode 2. And they're not even as old as these people. And I'm sorry, like, that is a lot more of a real, that anime has real characters with real problems that you get to see and understand as a viewer, and 2 people that relate to each other because of their problems, and they form a real relationship that struggles that whole show. And I take that anime and I look at, which is also flawed, and I apply it to this anime, and I just say they're not even close.
No, they're not.
Kare Kano has no ending, but I'd take that over this one.
I definitely think it had suffered from a lack of emotion in the characters, and it's kind of strange because I thought some of the side characters had more emotions than the main cast. And
totally, the blonde
we didn't
dude?
learn about them at all.
The blonde dude was fun. Yeah. I wanted more of him.
Yeah, definitely, but we didn't learn anything about them. They're just there, just existed in the background.
All right, so
I'm sorry, I'm so angry.
Can I drop my rating? Are we done?
Am I just a rageaholic?
No, you're not.
No,
a
I think
this anime is frustrating if you don't, want us.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating in general. The writing suffers a lot, Yeah, and
I
it's just
think
wasted potential, because I think episode 1 was pretty good, and then it just kind of staled out. So you're not wrong.
And I mean, people in the chat are saying that, yeah, you're pretty spot on. So it sounds like it's deserving. Now, again, I haven't seen the whole thing, so I can't really say. But
we all know I have a villain complex.
What?
That's
you?
true.
I love you anyway.
If you were here right now, I would snuggle with you.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Oh.
I would dive out the window.
Can I
and we're on the second
caress
floor.
your head?
I'm touching Kazu's
no,
shoulder.
That's devil.
Oh,
I don't like it.
Kazu, I'm going to remind you of something. I'm going to remind you of something that you said to me.
Oh God.
That you said to me a long ago.
Okay.
And I want you to just embrace these
Sure.
feelings that you had in that time.
Okay, let's hear it. Mitsuki, I want to take my balls out and lube up your head. Yep. Accurate.
Can't you just channel that for 5 seconds?
Well, all right, Enzo, what score are you going to give the show?
I'm personally going to give it a 2.5 out of 5, because I love the potential. I love the audio design. I love the music they chose to fill the moments in between the sparing dialogue. I love Komiya. Enna Komiya is a wonderful character. I wish the best for her and everything she wants to do in her life in this world that she lives in. But like as mentioned before, The anime suffers from silly writing holes that they wrote for themselves. I wish they ended it better. That was such a rushed ending. It felt so annoyed. I was so upset when I watched it the first time. So yeah, 2.5 terrible texting animes out of 5.
I think I'm about the same because I felt like it suffered a lot from the romance plot, and it would have been better off as a coming of age story about kids moving on to college and how they deal with it. But it definitely suffered a lot from lack of emotion. Very beautiful backgrounds. I felt like it was just extremely average, and there are better romance plots out there, or better romance anime out
Totally.
there. Even like for slower paced ones, I think there are much better options out there. So, but it didn't enrage me quite as much as Myths, so I think at about 2.5.
I'm just a
Right down the middle.
rageaholic.
Just
All right,
average.
so that rounds up to a 2.5 out of 5 for
Which is
Just
what
because.
which is what I was gonna give it walking in here today, and then I just got
Your
carried, I
rage
got
brought
carried
you
away.
down.
You got emotional.
So, because I just think it's an average show. I mean, it's
Yeah.
It had more emotions than those characters did.
it has some strong points.
Hell
Like
yeah.
I thought the art was fine, but
if we were going to
ultimately-
give a single word to define what a 2.5 is, what word would you give that?
average.
Average.
Average. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. And then a 3 would be like good.
Enjoyable, you know.
Yeah.
It's aight.
I hate these types of shows that don't respect the viewer's time, and I shouldn't have to watch if one character failed to confess to a girl 6 times. It's just ridiculous.
Gotcha.